Well, hey everybody, welcome back. Whew, it's getting warm out here, I gotta say. But that's not gonna stop us because there's lots of things to see and lots of things to do. All right, come for a walk with us, see what we can see. We've got some beautiful sulfur shelf. Look at these beautiful kind of yellowy pores looking there. And well, here's the thing about the sulfur shelves, so that's the Latoporus. There are about 5 different clades, and that's kind of based on where they grow, basically is what it comes down to. This one is on a hemlock. It looks like a hemlock to me. I'm going to say that this is most likely the Latoporus conifericola. The conifericola clade actually also has the Huroniensis in it, which is the East Coast version of these guys, that also likes the conifers. Then there's also the Cinnatus, which is, I believe, that has only that one particular one in it, and he's kind of orangey colored, darker orange and whatnot. There is a Sulphureus 1 and a Sulphureus 2 clade, and those are the differences between having a yellow pore and a white pore. Then there's the Gilbertsonii clade, and that one has the Gilbertsonii, which likes hardwoods on the west coast here. And I think there's also one that, a species that is also from down in the Caribbean that is also in that clade. But yeah, these guys are awesome. We've got some younger ones, which I'm gonna show you here in a second. But yeah, these are just amazing. Seems like I've got something on my lens. Yeah, so these guys are brown rot decayers, and they're heart rot. They're going to be snarfing on this guy, and I'll show you the end of the log in a second here and show you what they're like. But yeah, absolutely beautiful. These guys have loads of good stuff in them, and they're loaded with polysaccharides. They've got fiber, and they've got polyphenols, and they've got flavonoids. So lots of good stuff in there for us. Now here's the end of the log, and you can see that all these cuboidal kind of chunks in the xylem, the heartwood, that's all been degraded. So this guy was mowing down on this while it was alive, and they continue to mow down even after it's dead, as long as there is still a food source in there for it. And one thing about these guys is when they're on a fallen log, they're going to grow on the top kind of portion of these guys, of the log. There is another genus, which is more of an orangey color, and the name is Lycnoporella, and they like to grow on the lower part of a log, like where it kind of furls under, kind of. Yeah, and they're kind of orangey, and they're a little bit different. But yeah, just look at these beautiful things. And a lot of these have been attacked by slugs, but that's okay. That's okay. We're going to actually take a little bit of these guys from the margin of the cap. Paul Stamets likes to cook these in a teriyaki. So I've already done a taste test on these guys, and they're very, very nice. Very moist, and they're not bitter in the slightest. Now most often they're going to be growing on actual trees because they can be parasitic, but they can also be saprobic. So here they are laying on a fallen log, still chowing away because their mycelium was already in the tree when it was standing. And then when it fell, they ended up growing here. They'll also grow on like stumps too, that of fallen trees. And these guys will grow from sometimes June all the way through to the fall. And you can see that on these younger ones, all this moisture that's coming out of them, they kind of exude this liquid, which is basically water with a few metabolites and, you know, probably a tardigrade or 12, maybe more, but yeah, totally harmless, but beautiful. Look at these guys, there's more here. Wow, that actually does have the texture of chicken. Absolutely. I'm really quite impressed, actually. First time trying the sulfur shelf. and it's quite delicious and very, very tender and flavorful. Oh my, so good. Always start out with just a little bit. Even though they're not toxic, you could be allergic to these guys. Also, if you undercook them, you can get GI upset too. So make sure you cook them all. Make sure you try a little bit before you go crazy on them. And that's what we've done. Delicious. Oh, we have the fall Solomon seal berries are coming. Look at these guys. Aren't they really, really cool looking? These aren't ripe yet. They're ripe when they turn like a brilliant red. You could probably eat them now. They're just not, like they're not sweet or anything right now. But probably, I don't know, a few weeks, these guys are going to be a brilliant red. And they're delicious. Not a lot of meat on them. They got a big stone. But yeah. And when these guys are young and they're still not unfurled into this beautiful form that this is, they are very much like eating asparagus. Their little tiny furled up shoots are just delicious. So good. Really good. Yeah. Awesome. There's several that have berries along here too. There's more right here. A whole swack more over there on that guy. Right down there. Yeah. Beautiful. Nice. I love these guys, and they are so sweet and so full of good things for us. Oh, and we've got the herb of the gods. This is the yarrow. Look at these beautiful leaves. This is a Achillea millefolium, and Achillea named after Achilles, the demigod, and millefolium meaning many leaves. And you can see that all they're down there like that. You can see they're all over the place here, and they look very much like a feather. And they have this umbonate flower, and as you can see, they grow very tightly together, and they start to spread out a little bit as they start to age and whatnot. These guys can also have a pink hue to them as well, which is really, really neat. But let's get set up and we'll have a little bit of a chat about these guys. So these guys have an amazing citrusy kind of flavor. I use the leaves, these little feather-like leaves that they have on them. And you can dehydrate these guys and stick them in a jar and they'll last for like a year. Like they'll last a really, really long time. And they're full of good stuff for us. They've got niacin in it. They've got zinc. They've got manganese. They've got magnesium. They've got calcium and phosphorus and iron. And there's many, many more things to them as well. But they've also, you know, on our medicinal side, they've also got fatty acids and flavonoids, you know, polysaccharides and sterols. And, you know, they're just absolutely amazing for us. Before you go using these things, make sure you talk to your doctor, especially if you're on like a blood thinner and stuff like that. Just be very careful. Always talk to your doctor before you try using homeopathic methods and whatnot. But they've got like vitamin A and they've got vitamin C, just really, really good. And all those polysterols and the flavonoids and the fatty acids are all good for anti-cancerous and all kinds of good things for us. Just really, really awesome. But they're, you know, they on wounds, they're just awesome. They're astringent, they're anti-inflammatory, they're coagulants, and they're antimicrobial. Hence the reason why Achilles had all his warriors carry these in their little pouches with them. And probably saved a whole bunch of them. Because back then, even a small wound could kill a person. Because they just didn't have the knowledge that we have today. So way back in ancient Greek times, Achilles was born, and his mother, Thetis, wanted to protect him and wanted him to be a great warrior. So she grabbed him by the ankle, and she took him and hung him upside down and then dipped him into the river Styx. And they say that that is what gave him his invincibility qualities and impervious to wounds. It is also said that she didn't dip him in the river Styx, but they say that she made a giant cauldron of yarrow tea and did the same thing. And when she dipped him in, grabbed him by the ankle, dipped him into the cauldron, obviously not boiling hot water or else you'd have Achilles soup. where she had him on the ankle was the only spot that didn't get touched by either the water of the river Styx or the tea. And that was his only weak spot. Now, he ended up growing up to be an amazing warrior and an amazing leader. And, you know, you've obviously heard of the Battle of Troy, and that was a major one in his history and whatnot. And he really seemed like he was impervious to wounds, because he was just so amazing, and he conquered, and he never ever got killed. And so people honestly thought that this was the truth. However, one time, one of his opponents had cocked his arrow and fired the arrow at him and hit him exactly in the Achilles tendon, which was his only weak spot on his entire body. And I believe he later on died from infection from that. So where did Yarrow get its name? Well, in folklore, it is said that it was named after the arrow that hit Achilles in the tendon. But in actual history, it comes from an Anglo-Saxon name, Yarwe, which I'll put up the spelling here for you, because it does not look like how it's spelled. And yeah, so that is where it actually got its name from, was from the Anglo-Saxon name Yarwe, and that translates into something else, but I cannot remember it off the top of my head. So yeah, so that's what we have on this beautiful Achillea millifolia. And it really is a nice herb to add to any of your dishes, like you would, say, rosemary or thyme and oregano or anything like that. Yeah, just beautiful. And before they come up with these big stalks, they start out just as a little, they just come out of the ground just like a little feather, just like the little ones on the stem here. Okay, so we've got one more stop to make, and then we're going to talk about a very similar plant to this one, but very distantly related. Well, would you look at these little beauties hiding in the crotch of this tree? These guys are the Coprinopsis atramentaria. Yeah, these guys are beautiful, these little gray guys. They're kind of a silvery gray, and they turn to this ooze here. There's another bunch of them up here that were a little bit older, and they turned into their primordial ooze, and that's where they got their name. These guys are the most common Inky Caps. And where did they get their binomial name? Well, we can go back to 1780s there, and Jean-Baptiste Francois Pierre Bouillard. Say it with me, Jean-Baptiste Francois Pierre Bouillard. Yeah, well, I hope you did join me with that. He called it Agaricus atramentarius, and then it stayed that name for about 50 years, and then it moved along to our Autobot friend there, Elias Magnus Fries, and he created the Coprinus genus, and through those, and you know, the Coprinellus micaceus, the mica cap, and the shaggy manes, the Coprinus comatus, I think it is. And yeah, so there was about 100 of them in there at the time. And so along comes DNA testing, and they realized that a whole swack of them were actually Satharella, like the majority of them were. So these guys got separated into their Coprinopsis, and the micaceus got into the Coprinellus, and that's how they got their names. Now, here's a funny little thing, though. There are actually 3 different varieties of these guys. Yeah, so, but which one is it? Is it the Coprinopsis atramentaria squamosa? Is it the Coprinopsis atramentaria crassivellata? Or is it the Coprinopsis atramentaria acuminata? So, go through those. The squamosa has brown, large scales on the top of them, and that's kind of their macroscopic feature that puts them into that little variety. Then there is the crassivellata, which has quite a thick veil, apparently. I've never come across one of those before. And then there is the acuminata, which has a very slight veil. And let's take a look and see. This one's kind of smaller. He might have remnants there. Let's try and get underneath. Not much in the lines of any kind of veil. So they got black spores, and these guys actually In them, they do have some good stuff, but I'll tell you about those. But there's also some bad stuff as well. Good stuff, these guys are got polysaccharides, and they've got polyphenols, and they've got fatty acids, and they've got flavonoids. So all of these are great for our cell health and our immune systems, and being anti-cancerous. They're also antifungal, which I always find weird with fungus. Anyways, but they're antimicrobial and antibacterial, and against some major ones like the Staphylococcus aureus and a couple of those baddies there too. So they have some really, really good things in them. Now, the bad, they have in them this coprin affects you if you're drinking alcohol, and it can make you very sick. If you stop drinking the alcohol, as soon as you start getting the symptoms, it'll go away. The symptoms will go away in about a few hours. But if you don't, oh, you're not going to be feeling very good. Yeah, no, you're not going to be feeling well. So stop the drinking if you're going to be eating these guys. And sometimes it can be like if you drank a day or two before or a day or two after, you can get affected sometimes too. Yeah, you get the same kind of symptoms that they get from disulfiram, which helps people stop drinking, which makes them ill if they drink any alcohol with them. But yeah, so you can get like reddened face and palpitations, and yeah, you can get really agitated, and in the worst case you could possibly even have a heart attack. So be very, very careful. I almost forgot, they also have iron, they've got zinc, they've got copper, like the Mycaceus, they've got copper in them as well, but they've got phosphorus, they've got potassium, and they've got calcium, and magnesium and manganese too. So really, really loaded with stuff. Yeah, just awesome. I'll leave these guys to turn into their primordial ooze, like their little cousins up here. So the rest of this video was recorded 2 days ago, and I purposely held off because I wanted to see if these Atramentaria, these Inky Caps, would have another fruiting. And look at that, right up there, in amongst all their last fruiting, they're coming up through it. Yeah, oh, there's just little tiny ones underneath here. Well, I want to get this tiniest one up because I want to see if it's got any kind of a veil. And these guys will be, they're not actually growing on this maple here, this Acer macrophylla. They are actually growing in all this debris that's fallen from it over time. And I think I got them up. Let's see here. Little tiny remnants of kind of a little bit of a veil there, possibly. It looks to me like that might be. So they say that that is to find out the difference between the two, the crassivellata and the acuminata, is that the crassivellata has a very thick veil, and the acuminata has a very fleeting one. And this looks very fleeting to me. They look like little veil remnants on it. That's the smallest specimen I could find. Now here's some of these guys that look very similar. Yeah. These are actually the Queen Anne's lace, the Daucus carota. And they are actually related to the carrot. And we're going to just get our camera set up because we got a few things to talk about with these guys as well. In the center of this umbo of the Queen Anne's lace is a little tiny purple floret. Now this little purple floret is pretty interesting. Sometimes there's one, sometimes there's two, sometimes there's none. Now it does get knocked off quite easily, but there's a little tiny story behind that. As Queen Anne was making her lace, she accidentally poked her finger with a needle or crochet hook or whatever, and a little drop of blood landed on her lace. And that's what this represents. Now, many botanists over the years had pondered and theorized as to why this little purple floret is there. So through experiments, they took several of these plants, and some with the little purple floret, some without. And they introduced a beetle that they happened to notice was very common and frequented these flowers. They noticed that the flower umbos that had the purple little floret in the middle had a 75 to 80% higher rate of beetles coming to visit their flower as opposed to the ones that did not have that little tiny purple floret on it. So they think that it has something to do with the mating processes and the mating cycles of that particular beetle. And there are several beetles on a couple of these, and I'll show you some in a minute. But we've got more to talk about on these guys. So here's some of the identifying features of Queen Anne's lace. Is obviously the umbo with that little floret in the middle, but always being protected. She has all her men-at-arms with their pole pikes at the back. These all are not attached to the flowers. They're almost kind of like little sepal kind of things coming out of them. But yeah, so they thought that these were her protectors, her man-at-arms, protecting her. And under her skirt, you can see she had hairy legs. Now, one of the lookalikes to these guys, the poisonous lookalikes, the water hemlocks and other poison hemlocks and whatnot, do not have the hairs on their stipes. They do not have the men-at-arms on the back of the umbo. Also, the most of them, these little tiny clusters, are more spread out. They're not in a big clump like these ones, and they literally, more like I guess you could say a starburst would be how their umbo looks. Yeah, that's for the water hemlocks and whatnot. And there are a lot of other ones too. There's, there's cow parsnips and stuff, and there's lots that look like these. They have the same kind of things. And we can see that their leaves are almost kind of like the yarrow, but not quite feathery, more like a carrot. And speaking of carrot, so this is the taproot, their kind of archaic carrot, as it were. Yeah, and if you scrape them, you can really, really get the scent of carrot. Like, totally. Like you just pulled one out of the garden and gave it a scrape, These guys are, once they get a little bit older, they're too fibrous to eat. However, you can use them in soup stocks, and you'll get all that carrot flavor and their nutrients. Because there's lots of nutrients in these guys too, right? So, being part of the carrot family, they are very high in vitamin C, and they've also got calcium, they've also got magnesium, and they've got several other things. But the younger ones, their taproot, their archaic carrot, is quite soft, and it actually is palatable. But these ones are way too sinewy, and they get hard. But the leaves and the root can aid your digestion, and they can definitely help you with any kind of gastrointestinal upset. If you got diarrhea, that can help them too. And you can see it's very, very dry, and they like it very, very dry for some reason. But like I said, they're loaded with vitamin C, and they've got calcium, and they've got potassium, and they're also a diuretic. So yeah, very, very awesome. So let's go and find one of the other flowers that might have a couple of those beetles I was talking about on them. So these guys are, from what I understand, are the beetles that do the pollinating on these guys, because see, they keep going towards that purple, trying to mount it. So I really do think that the scientists actually have something here. This may very well mimic a female beetle. You can see this one here is very young, but it's got that little purple floret. Here's another one, very young, got that purple floret. Queen Anne's lace, another one of our amazing plants out in the forest. All right, everybody, that's it. I hope you enjoyed our walk as much as I did. And if you did, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe button. Until next time, my friends, take care now.